Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our webinar series of August. My name is Sonia Siddiqui, and joining me today is Jeanette. Hi. And she's here from Care Systems, and she's a recruiter herself who's going to be talking about how to help millennials with their job search at this day and age today. And I'm going to hand it over to Jeanette, and let's see what she has to say.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Sonia, for the introduction, and I'm really thrilled to be here. And thanks again to ACCES Employment for inviting me. So currently, as you know, I'm the talent acquisition coordinator at Care Systems, and a bit of background about me is that I'm a millennial myself, hence the title, and I graduated from University of Toronto back in 2016 and did student recruitment for U of T, followed up by working at 1 year at Randstad, which is Canada's largest recruitment agency, where there I was working with recruiting for HR, and then afterwards moved to tech recruitment, specializing in recruitment for banks, telecom, insurance, and financial services. And now I'm at Care Systems. So a bit about Care Systems is that we started off in Toronto. We are a machine learning contract analysis software trusted by the world's largest corporations and professional service firms. We automatically extract data from contracts using machine learning algorithm, and clients are able to extract, analyze, interpret relevant information, and overall our clients say it saves them around 20 to 90% of their time with greater accuracy than human review. So Kira makes merger and acquisition due diligence faster, gives it more precise and accuracy, and gives unprecedented insight into your company's contracts and help increase accurate lease summaries quickly. So a few of the awards that we won is that currently we were announced 2018 Legal AI Leader, and in the International Legal Technology Association, we were the Solution Provider of the Year finalist, as well as the International Data Corporation 2016 for machine learning based text analytics. So we are currently hiring, so please do check out our website at caresystem.com/career. All right. So, since our topic is on millennials, first going to start off with the definition of millennials. There isn't a precise definition according overall. So for statistics at Canada, there's no definition, but for millennials, according to Goldman Sachs, we're Generation Y, and we range between years 1980 to 2000, and there's another research done by Pew Research, is where millennials are ranged between 1981 to 1996. So right now, millennials are the biggest generation with more than 92 million in the world, which really amazing because we beat the baby boomers. But they won't be the biggest generation forever because they'll peak until 2038 to around 96 million, and that is where the Generation Z will take lead. So like what makes a millennial is that they're the first digital natives. They've grown up with the internet. They're very socially connected online, and they're part of the technological change. The millennials are putting off milestones like marriage and parenthood until ages 25 to 30, and they're creating a new economy where it's more of a shared economy because they're more reluctant to buy items such as car, music, or luxury goods, and instead turn it into a new set of services to gain access without ownership. For example, research from Goldman Sachs had predicted that 25 years from now, car sharing will be the norm, and home ownership will decrease. Also, wellness has a high importance now, where it's a daily pursuit to exercise more, eat smarter, and spend more money to stay healthy. Another statistics is that in terms of the workforce, by 2033, the working age will support more people over 64 than under 18. And right now, in terms of the So in terms of the industry, so how it's faring, according to Statistics Canada, there are main three sectors there are main sectors that I want to show. So one is based on the industry, and the other one is based on which industry has the number of employment and which industry has the number of GDP. So the top 3 industries or sectors right now are trade, healthcare, and manufacturing. And the top 3 industry with the highest GDP is business, service producing, and goods producing industries. So although for now that's how it is, but there is that doesn't mean how it will be in the future. So there is definitely trends towards automation. So according to Deloitte, automation is transforming the labor market, and there's an estimation around 35% of current jobs will be automated. And we kind of see that effect when it comes to Manulife. For example, back in June, Manulife cut around 700 jobs. Sorry, so Manulife announced on June that they'll be cutting 700 jobs for the next 18 months. It's because they require fewer staffs as it automates and digitizes existing customer transactions and consolidates other administrative and operational back office functions. So in Canada, they're cutting around 13,000, which is around 5% of the Canadian employees in Manulife. And so next is about jobs. So in terms of job factors that matter most to millennials, according to the US News, it's 3 main criteria: the salary, work-life balance, and stress. So according to US News, the top 3 jobs are web developers, software developers, and dental hygienists. While for Indeed, they did a research for Canada base where it's focused on 3 other criteria: work-life balance, culture, and growth opportunities. And as you see on the left side, 9 out of 10 jobs in Canada were tech-related. This shows that as companies continue to undergo digital transformation, there's definitely a high demand for tech talent. All right, so I'm just going to talk a bit about recruitment process because I do want to give more tips on job hunting and for you to have an understanding how the recruitment process overall. So what you see is that you apply, you see the job, you apply, you interview, you get the offer, and there's a background check, and that's when you start. So on the other end, for employers, we kind of have to chat or talk with the team, hiring managers before creating like the job posting. And we use something called like application tracking systems. So examples of these include Talio, SAP, ADP, Greenhouse, Ceridian, and even Bullhorn. So these are a software or a system where it tracks resumes and applicants, and it's linked to like job boards, LinkedIn, and other ways that we find candidates through sourcing. And afterwards, next step would be interviewing, get the feedback from the team, send out the offer to the talent, and conduct a background check, and that's when you start. All right, so just going to start off with the focus on what you see. So for job postings, so these are ones that I do recommend. For example, Indeed, they're the top job board in Canada, as well as Monsters, Career Builder. So if you're interested in startups, I do recommend AngelList or Hired. And if you want to go look more about the intel or inside of the company, Glassdoor is a great tool. So there's something now, and also Talent Egg for internships. So there's something now called Google for Jobs. It was launched back in April this year. And the reason why I wanted to put emphasis on this is because Google for Jobs is changing the recruitment process. So right now, we use Google to search for job opportunities, and it's used to display job listings directly on Google search. And Google for Job collects, organizes, displays job listings from various job boards, and they use machine learning to understand how job titles, skills relates closest to the job seekers. And Google now is partnered with job recruitments like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and Monsters. Right, so after viewing your job posting, you'll send over your application. And that's mainly the focus would be on your resume. So kind of want to dabble on what to write or focus on your resume is definitely the contact information, your email, your phone number. I feel most people would miss out on their LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a really important tool, as you know, and the reason why to add LinkedIn is because most recruiters, they would use it to cross-reference your resume along with your LinkedIn. Finally, it's do add your address. So in terms of that, you won't need to add your full address. You simply add in your like city or the province. Next is to add the summary. So this includes the skills, overall experiences, or type of tools that you work with, along with adding in your education, professional experiences, focusing on your accomplishments, as well as volunteers and hobbies that you feel are relevant and what you would like to showcase to the employer. All right, so how do you stand out on your resume? I would say add a few portfolios to stand out, websites including WordPress, GitHub, Dribble or Behance, and other certifications that you accomplished, including like your project management, certified Scrum Master, Salesforce, or other types of online to just let employers know that you're continuously learning and you have these credentials. So there are other ways to go around your search. There's networking, there's job fairs, social media, referrals, and recruitment agencies. So for networking, there's something called 10,000 Coffees. It was created by UFT at the Hub, and it's a great platform, and it's an app actually for users, professionals to connect, and it's similar to Shaper. So other networking events include Eventbrite. For example, this month there's a blockchain features conference, which is pretty awesome. And for meetups, if you just search up professional networking on meetups.com, then it shows up more than 10,000 events going on. And also one important to note is that the purpose of networking is not only to meet other professionals, it's also to learn more about how different companies, industries, or organizations are going overall, and kind of like it's a great way to kind of reach to find more information and apply. So job fairs and through social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and other platforms. And for recruitment agencies, it'll be at Randstad. So for just kind of like reeling back, Hip House is also another young professional network where they have events every month. So it's a great networking tool. And if you're interested in startups too, Founders Beta and Toronto Starts are great communities. So once you do land your interviews, what are types to expect? There's phone interviews, video interviews, in-person, and tests. For phone interviews, I do recommend standing up, because when you stand up, you tend to enunciate better, and that could help out. Right. So let's just chat a bit about tests. There are different types of tests, and it's not mandatory that all employers will administer tests. The reason why I put it out is just to have you be aware or be prepared if you are administrated any tests. So the first one would be, the psychological ones. These could include like Charlie test, Wonderlake, or Myers-Briggs. Physical test, physical fitness. So, give an example is for Bell, they have a physical fitness test where it's for like technicians, like service field technicians, where these are people that would come over to offices or your home to fix the internet. And one of their tests is to carry around a ladder. So they have to carry one ladder from one side to the other, and that's an example of a physical test. So next one is work samples and simulation tests. These can include like technical testings or showing like your portfolio as your work sample. Lastly, there's assessment centers. These are where it doesn't have to be a center per se or physical location. It's just a method where you use multiple techniques to evaluate candidates or selection into whether it's for classification, for promotion, and it can include like written exercises, role playing, leadership group discussion, which can run from 1 to 3 days. So a few interview tips. It's definitely important to do research about the company to at least be able to understand what they do, explain how they are in the market, and also understand the pain points that the team has or any issues and how you're able to help contribute to solve that issue. Another one is to bring positivity and your attitude and to put and thirdly, 1, 2, 3. What I mean by that is to count to 3 whenever you're answering a question so that it gives you more time to think about the question instead of simply blurting it out. And next one would be 2 to 5 minutes, meaning that when you answer questions, it's best to answer within the 2 to 5 minute mark. And like if you're going too long, then it may be a bit too verbose. Lastly, another one is eye contact. Next one is T-chart. So what I mean by T-chart is on one side, let's say the left side, you write different questions that you have, and then on the right side, you write the answers. So this is a great method to firstly prepare and kind of like when you're being interviewed to have that mental image and that you can check off the criteria whenever you answer the questions from the T-chart. Lastly, do send a thank you note. It's a great way to show that you had a great conversation with the employer or the recruiter, and that it'll definitely keep you top of mind on their end. All right, so according to the Ontario Human Rights Commission, there are prohibited grounds of discrimination in employment when it comes to questions, and these would include race, color, ancestry, religion, place of origin, ethnic origin, citizenship, sex, sexual orientation, age, marital status, family status, disability, and record of offense. So there are different ways to resolve it. So I would first try to ask, for example, if I'm asked, hey Jeanette, what is your citizenship? First of all, that's not right to ask. And the way I would respond to that is sometimes the employers might be asking or trying to find a way to ask a different way. For example, maybe they're trying to ask, hey Jeanette, do you speak a second language or are you eligible to work in Canada? That could be a question that they might be asking, but instead they misled it, starting with where your citizenship. So when I'm asked what is your citizenship, I'll kind of ask like, why are you asking this question? To let them understand that this is not right, or let them understand that maybe there's another way to ask this question, or maybe there's another question they want to ask. So in terms of that, and then if they do continue to push in terms of like, yes, I want to know what's your citizenship, I would answer another way, which would simply be, well, I am eligible to work in Canada. Simple as that. So another question sometimes is, how old are you? Well, since age is one of the prohibited grounds of discrimination, one of the ways to answer it is simply say, my age is not an issue on my performance in this job, and I am eligible to work. Right. So another note is that right now, when it comes to compensation, on April, there was a pay transparency bill. So this requires all publicly advertised jobs to include salary rate or range and bar employers from asking about past compensations and prohibits reprisal against employees who do discuss or disclose compensation. So basically, if during the interviews, if you're asked what your previous compensation is, you are not obliged to provide it. Instead, give either the range that you are comfortable with, or simply let them know that you're more open about or know more about your priorities are in compensation. So when doing research on compensations, there's three main tools to use. One is pay scale. Second one is the Randstad salary guide. And the last one is Glassdoor. So I do have a quick snapshot of each. So as you see on pay scale, they do provide the median and how it is overall. And then at Randstad, you see, so for this one, overall, I searched up DevOps. And these are the three snapshots I got from the different links. So continue on for Randstad, if you take a look at DevOps, there's entry, mid, and senior levels. So entry is kind of like someone with between 1 and 3 years, mid is 3 to 5, and senior is 5 plus. And Glassdoor provides the range for individual companies too. All right, so who are involved in interview stages? So these would include the talent acquisition or human resources, managers, and team members. Do you want to cover what employers are looking for? It's just simply to tell if, one, can you perform the job? Two, if yes, how well can you perform the job, as well as with your soft and hard skills, including like your communication skills, your culture fit, your attitude, and your technical skills. So right now, so after all the interviews are done, you do get the offer. What does the next step look like? This would be a background check. So these are examples of different background checks conducted. It's not mandatory that all employers would use this, but most would have to use a references. So typically they would ask for your top 3 references and having with a preference for managers for all 3 references. There's also a 5-year employment history. So this is where they would just simply check with HR to see if you worked in the companies during the past 5 years. And there's also criminal record checks, credit history, education, license and certificate. For license and certificate plus education, it's simply like a snapshot of your degree. For example, for me, it'll just be a snapshot of my bachelor's degree. All right, so that's the recruitment process. And that's when you get started and get on board. So do you want to share a few other additional resources? At University of Toronto, they do provide at the academic center, they do provide a few employment tip sheets. Please do take a look at it. And ACCES Employment, they have great tools to help you with your job search, and also Monsters with other resources too. And here are the references. So now that you know what the recruitment process looks like, think how you can best represent yourself to whoever you're meeting to show that you can contribute value to what you're applying to. And I hope that you were able to take away and learn something new from this webinar, whether it's about career systems, millennials, the industries, or recruitment process. And do you wish you best of luck on your job search or at your current role, and happy job hunting. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah.
Thank you, Jeanette. That was very informative. Lots of links and lots of information for everyone to sink in. And everyone, thank you again for your participation. We are going to move over to the Q&A. And so if you have any questions, please type them into the questions tab. I see everyone's typing them in. If you could keep your questions short, so it'll be easier for us to read and answer right away. Um, I'm going to turn the camera on so people can see us. Awesome. All right. So somebody wanted to see the references again. I can go back to the references page so you can see it. I think we are here. There it is. So if you want to have a look, everything has been researched and it's basically up to date. So have a look over there. Um, Faisal has a question. During a background check, are Canadian employers allowed to discriminate against you based on online activity, as in like pictures on Facebook, or somebody's tagged them in a picture of partying, drinking? Are employers allowed to discriminate with that?
Well, it's not about whether it's discrimination. It's more because it's about having that clear image, like your personal branding. If you, let's say, have like very vulgar um, or very disturbing photos on your LinkedIn or Facebook, that shows that image of like how you are as a person, and that is and that does contribute to how it does affect how employer would view the candidates.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's something that we always tell our clients as well. You want to make sure that your online presence, because we're online services as well, that's something that we always tell everyone, that online presence should be in line with your professional presence as well. So that's why employers not just look at your LinkedIn, but they're also looking at your Twitter account, your Facebook account, and you just have to make sure that everything, it is your personal page. You are more than welcome to put whatever you want on there, but maybe not make it public, so that employers are not able to really see. I mean, they really don't have any business looking at all of that, but if you Google your name, all of this comes up, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, and everything. And it's up to you how you control your privacy settings. So of course it would hinder their judgment a little bit if they saw something that wasn't professional, or Um, Jay has a question, wants to know how to best explain long gaps. So example, if they haven't worked for 7 months, how could they explain that in an interview or on their resume?
Yeah, so I would say definitely be honest, because like we're all humans, so I'm definitely sure like employers would be understanding if there's a gap. However, if during those 7 months you've done courses, or if there's like a gap in general, it's also good to put it in on your resume to explain the reason for the gap.
Awesome. Also, I mean, if you recently landed in Canada and you have a 6 to 7 month gap, it's totally understandable, because you just landed, you had to look for a place to live. If you had children, you might have had to find schools for them, and it takes a while to settle in. So that's something employers already understand, that as a newcomer you will have a bit of a gap on your resume. And again, be honest, explain to them, what might have happened, that you're looking for work, but it's just you needed to work on your resume, you needed to take a course, whatever it is. And if you did take a course, make sure that you write down the dates next to the course, so they know that maybe you were in school at this time. So, I mean, recruiters aren't looking to, they're looking for talent, right? So if they like what they see, they just want to make sure that, everything is in line with your resume, what you're saying, and in line with your LinkedIn as well. Vanya has a question, and she has been a recruiter just herself, and she wants to get into the IT industry, and she wants to know how could she position herself if she wants to work in IT recruitment specifically.
To work into IT recruitment?
Yes.
Yeah, so To work into IT recruitment, I would definitely say to apply for recruitment agencies because they definitely have a huge grasp in terms of the different clients and understand like the most updated technologies too.
Thank you. So everyone's asking about various slides. It would be great if you could just hold off. You will get a recording of the webinar, so you will be able to see all the slides at your own pace as well. Alekia has a question. Great question. Everyone wants to know, how do you answer the question, tell me about yourself? What is it that a recruiter is looking for when you ask that question?
So when it comes to tell me about yourself, it's really pretty much like the way I like to think of it, it's like an icebreaker.
Exactly.
So it's like a great way to introduce yourself in terms of like your education, your overall work experience, something that you're looking to bring into the organization.
Okay, and say for example they don't have a lot of work experience, would it be okay for them to focus on talking about like the last course that they've taken or school? Okay.
Yeah.
So any of those depends on what your situation is. If you're freshly out of school, maybe you want to focus on, you know, all the achievements you've had in school and maybe the part-time job you've had, any clubs you've joined, anything that you've done that could add to your resume. And if you've got tons of experience, maybe you want to talk about whatever is relatable to the job that you're applying to. And obviously you will not be talking about personal things when they ask you, tell me about yourself. So it's not like you're going to talk about your family or, you know, what your last vacation was or anything like that. That could probably be once the interview gets rolling. And like I said, some information interviews are very formal. Some could be a little more casual, and you might have the chance to discuss these things. But again, stay on topic, and you're talking about whatever's relevant to the job at that time. Tayo has a question, wants to know what would you do if you don't have any work references at all? Who else can you use as references?
Yeah, so when it comes to the work references, like volunteers would be a great idea, or back in your education setting, it's possible to ask like your professors as work references too.
Okay, and obviously family and friends would not be references, but if you volunteered somewhere, any organization that you work with, you know, even if it's for a short time, you have shown your abilities to work in a team environment or just produce results, whatever the gig might have been. So you can use those people as references too. So it's really important to stay in touch with people that you've always worked with or reported to, because you never know when you might need to use them as a reference in the future. Satya Narayan has a question. He's gone for 2 interviews and it's been a week and he hasn't heard back from them. He wants to know how long does the process take to complete?
Mm-hmm. So it definitely varies with the different organizations because depending how urgent the role is to fill or depending on how large the team is, because they overall do need feedback from different teams. So so what I do recommend is to sometimes have a follow-up email to kind of ask how the process is, whether it's each like weekly to kind of ask for an updated status.
Yeah, so you know, regardless, it could take anywhere from a month to 6 months, depending on how they're hiring. But have you followed up with them? So after an interview, you know, you need to make sure that within a few hours you write a thank you email for attending the interview. But you also need to follow up. So if they said, you know, you'll hear back from us within the next week or within the next 2 weeks, if you haven't heard back from them, now it's your job to get in touch with them and just, you know, follow up and ask what's going on and what the next steps are. So if you haven't heard anything, I would just follow up myself as well. Sorry, so thank you again for submitting all your questions, everyone. I am going through them one by one. I got to know that most of the So, okay, Javier has a question. Again, very good question. He wants to know that a lot of jobs in Canada that are advertised, like on Indeed or even on the career site of different organizations, are actually already filled through maybe through hiring someone from within the company or maybe through their own personal references. Is that true?
Yes, I would say it's because for some different job boards, they're able to. So the reason why some employers might keep the job board on, even though, like the job posting on, even though it's being filled, is just to also to add in more to the candidate pool, and it's also possible that they're also hiring for a second role. So based on that. Um, that's also a possibility they might keep it open. And also for different job boards, they do allow the company to keep it like keep the posting on for a longer time than and mostly it's some most of the postings they can range for around like 6 months to a year, but most of the time it's a year monthly subscription.
Oh, yeah, and I mean that's a good question, but I mean think about it. You think that if a company already has good talent within, they would probably hire someone who already knows the company, who's been there for a very long time, knows everybody, is already the right fit. They don't need to look outside, but they still need to post it for them to apply as well. And this is why it's so important to network and meet people and know them, get them to know you, be friends with them, is because networking works. So if there's a job posting in my company, and I know someone or I've met someone that could be great for the position, I will definitely pass on their resume or use them, be their reference for them to apply over here as well. So that's why it's really important for you to get out there and meet people, and so that you come to mind when something comes up in their company. So that's something to look out for. But again, there's a lot of people who it's very hard to find. I mean, there's maybe 40 roles, 30 roles, 10 roles posted, and they're not able to find someone for those roles, they will be looking outside as well. But a lot of times, companies are very lucky when they find people from within or through someone that they know. Namrata has a question and wants to know what should they cover in the 30-second summary. So, when you're networking or just a tell me about yourself summary, if you can just go over, what to include in there.
Yeah. So when it comes to networking, I would say it's more of a conversation. It's similar to like tell me about yourself. It's more about talking about what you're currently at and what you're interested in, and also it's a good way to ask about. And afterwards, it's good to ask about how they. What brings them to the event, or more of like what they're interested in, how you can play a role in their organization.
Yeah, and you meet people all the time. Like a lot of the guest speakers that are bringing, just like Jeanette herself, I meet through networking, and it depends on why you're networking. I'm always networking to meet people in the employment industry so that I can help my clients through them, and that's what I was looking for when I met Jeanette as well. And when she came over, she introduced herself, saying she's Jeanette, and at that time you were with Randstad, and you told me what she was recruiting for, and I said, well, great, because we're in this business and this is what we can help. I can help you with our clients, and this is how we got to talking. So it really depends on what you're looking for and what they're looking for. So if you're at an event, you should also know what the others are looking for, so you can relate to what they're saying, and kind of spark that interest for them to know you better as well. So it's more like, what are you willing to give them as well? Um, Sorry, oh, I skipped a question. Yes, good question. Srina has a question, wants to know, could you please advise or give tips on cold calling and how to tap into the invisible job market? So do you agree with cold calling? And if you do, how should they go about it for
Um,
jobs?
so just want to explain for those who are not sure what cold calling is. So there's like cold calling, warm calling. So cold calling is just basically pick up a phone, calling someone that you're not, you have no connection with, or and yeah. So when it comes to cold calling, it's definitely a method to recruitment, and it's really great because not only is it a good way to like reach out to candidates, it's also a good way to tell more about the organization overall.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, cold calling, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Cold calling, I guess, in this day and age would be sending out messages on LinkedIn. So I think that's something that you should maybe focus on more. So if you have any companies in mind that you want to work at, maybe you can start connecting with people who work there and kind of send them cold messages instead of cold calling just for an informational interview, just to let them know that, I've always been interested in working at this company, just wanted to know what your experience is like because I'm thinking of applying and I really want to do my research before, I go ahead. So whatever your angle would be, you can start applying, you can start sending these messages. So say you've sent messages to maybe 20 people, I'm sure about 2 or 3 will respond back. So don't take it personally. Don't feel rejected when you don't hear back from these people. But just know people are busy, and I'm sure there's tons of people, especially recruiters. There's tons of people reaching out to them every day. So keep that in mind. Maybe they'll get to you eventually. And if not, you've sent out so many personal messages to everybody, personalized messages, and you want to make, you'll get a few messages back. So maybe try that angle instead of cold calling per se. Javier has a question. How open are employers to give you offers if the candidate wants to change career choice and has less to no experience in a position advertised? So, for example, let's say someone's changing careers from IT to sales and doesn't really have any sales experience, but they want to switch to sales. How keen are employers taking someone on who's going through a career change?
Yeah, when it comes to that, it's more about the transferable skills, and in the end, it's similar to if you can perform the job and how well can you perform it, as well as with like your hard and soft skills. So if you're going from a tech background into like a sales background, if you have any like transferable skills that you're able to demonstrate, that would be key.
Exactly. So regardless of any career change, there's always skills that you're carrying with you. So like she said, there could be tons of soft skills that you don't maybe realize that you've done. Maybe you've done presentations in the past. Maybe you've done, when you do a presentation, you're basically selling to people, right? So that's something that could be used as soft skills. It's just the way how you will word it in your resume to sell yourself to the company. So focus on those transferable skills that you have when you are applying to these positions. And companies are always looking for the right fit. They're not really looking for the most educated, most experienced professional. They're looking for the right fit, and anything can be taught to anybody, right? So if you're willing to learn, and you're able to fit into that company's atmosphere, the office environment, the people there, if you're willing to and you're able to transfer into that new place, it shouldn't be an issue teaching you what you need to know. Everyone is asking about the slides. Please know that we will get a recording, and I really thank you for your interest, everyone. You will get a recording after the webinar, I promise you.
I'm glad that they like the slides.
Yeah, I'm glad that you do. I know because there was a lot of information, and I was just telling Jeanette earlier, like, this is great. There's so much information for everybody to see. You can pause it, you can look at it at your own time afterwards, I promise. All right, so Ruth Karen has a question. How do you explain years of gaps? So, for example, like a sabbatical, time taken to raise kids on the resume. Do you explain that at a career objective part? Like, what would you say about people? Maybe they have 7 years of missing experience.
Yeah, I would say to add it under the experience part instead of like a separate division. So either like for example, if you're working in like cloud architecture, so and then afterwards you took a sabbatical, you can simply write personal leave or sabbatical and then write the dates there so that it explains why the gap and the reason for it.
There's different ways to actually, deal with these gaps. I mean, if someone has a big gap for maybe 7 to 10 years or something like that, you can always use a functional resume, and that helps focusing on the skills rather than when you work and where you work, because it's just minimal at the bottom of your resume, and you're focusing more on your skills. And again, you can check out what a functional combination or chronological resume looks like on our website as well. Or you could, I've seen this on several resumes. I don't know if you have, but I've seen something like domestic manager or domestic coordinator, and it's basically a mom who's been, budgeting household like budgets, and like it's just the way you word it, and it was really nice the way this woman had written. And I'm trying to understand. I was like, where did she work? Where was she this domestic manager? I mean, it looks like a lot of work, but what is this? So I couldn't, I really had to sit down like, oh, she was just a stay at home mom, which is a lot of work, but it was so nice the way she put it together that, like anybody would have called her for an interview because it was very creative the way she put it up. So it's up to you how you word it, but, make sure that you do put your skills and experience on there as well. Um, Parth wants to know, will my previous non-Canadian experience be of any relevance when I'm applying to jobs?
Oh, definitely.
Sure, 100%. So, do you have any tips of how people can overcome that fear of, not having Canadian experience?
Yeah, so one method is like there are quite a few. So sometimes, let's say you worked at like a large organization back in back in the hometown. Sometimes can write the company, and then you can write a description of what the company does. That would be like a way for the employers to understand more about like the company and that how it is in that local market.
Yeah, and again, not too much because you don't want to make sure you're writing too much about the company. You want to write more about yourself. Exactly, it'd be great because maybe they don't know, what the company is. They've never heard of it. So that familiarity might like able to and connect it to their company, how it might be similar to their company. So maybe you can look up, for example, you're applying to Bell and you work at a telecommunications office back in, let's say, Nigeria. Compare the two maybe so they can understand what it was, and make sure that all the job description that you're talking about, all the responsibilities, all the accomplishments are in line with what Bell is also looking for in their job ad or what they're looking for in their new employees. Danny has a question, I guess that would be for you for sure. What are common psychological tests for recruiters?
Common psychological
So something tests. That, I mean, what did you have to go through before?
Not sure I'm able to say. When it comes to psychological tests, I would say it would be similar to the checklist that I provided. So this could include like the Charlie, the Wonderlike, or the Myers-Briggs. So like these type of personality tests is kind of like I'll give you an example. It's like let's say you're in a party. Well, like what would you be doing? Would you be like sitting down, talking to people, and then like yeah. So it's like rate this from 1 to 10. So these are like other types of or like likely, unlikely, disagree, agree. So these are like kind of like what the psychological test entails. And basically, in the end, for these tests, they do create like a score, like a predictive index score, and then it's a great way for employers to assess in terms of, for example, in terms of like your personality, your honesty, integrity, test for emotional intelligence, vocational interest inventories, cognitive abilities, aptitude tests, psychomotor tests, and so forth.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I guess they try to understand your psyche, by just asking you these trick questions, like what would you do at a party? Obviously, they want to know if you're an outgoing person, how you would react in certain situations. So yeah, could you name the test again? I think you said.
Yeah, so there was like the Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs?
Myers-Briggs.
Okay.
M-Y-E-R.
Okay.
Myers-Briggs. And then there's the Charlie. And
the Charlie.
Wonder, like, like those are things that you can also like practice
And
online.
she's got them on the slides as well. So once you get the recording, you can look them up yourself as well. So yeah, I want to ask again, when you're talking your 30-second summary, should you just start telling about your education and experiences and adding a little bit about personal life, or should you just stick to education and professional experience?
When it comes to the initial, like the first conversation, it's the best way is to stay professional.
Exactly.
So do you recommend saying like how like your overall experiences, what type of tools you work with even, or like how you can contribute to the organization?
Perfect. Priya has a good question. What would be the minimum time needed to work or volunteer somewhere to consider a volunteer work for reference?
Hmm. Well, that would depend on
I guess the relationship that you would have built with
yeah,
the
depends on the
supervisor.
employer.
So I mean, if you volunteered somewhere for maybe like I would say, let's say 6 days in the summer, or maybe like even to like 2 weeks in the summer, I think it should be good enough. It depends on what kind of relationship that you built with your colleagues or supervisor. Really depends on the person who's going to be a reference. Do they actually know you? So it depends on that. You can work with someone for a day and build a really great connection with that person who would say, well, if you ever need a job, I'm here to help you. So it really depends on the connection you have with your reference, potential reference, that is, when you're volunteering.
And kind of quick thing to note is that when you provide references, typically they'll kind of ask the references for like their phone number or their email to contact them.
Right. And Namrata wants to know if you have a career gap, let's say about 8 years, will references still be asked? Work references will always be asked. You need a minimum of three. So again, over this time that you've been out of work, you could have been volunteering somewhere, or, just known people through different organizations, or just through networking. You could know a few professional people that you've come across and you've done something from them. I know it's hard to think at the time, but when you really sit down and put your resume together, you might be able to think of some. It could have been a course that you've taken over time, and it's really important. That's what we said. Networking is so important. Staying in touch with people are so important as well. So yeah, references will definitely always be asked. All right, Marcio has a question. Should I apply twice for the same position in the same company once they rejected me recently?
To apply for the same position for the same company, and so I would say it's not recommended unless it's a different posting for the same company. However, when it comes to applying for positions, it's best to just apply once, and then it's just I feel like when you're applying, just apply for the roles that you feel you have related like experience with, and yeah.
Yeah, and by rejected, I don't know if you mean that they never called you, or did you attended an interview and they rejected you. So if you've ever been called for the position and you've been continuously applying, I would say keep applying because you're not really rejected. It's just they haven't gotten to you. But if you had an interview and you were rejected, maybe you can apply for something else in the company where you could still transfer your skills as well. Because maybe they thought that you might have been too overqualified for that position, or that it might not be challenging enough for you, so maybe apply for different positions in the company. But I mean, there's two ways of looking at rejection. I know some people take not hearing back from an employer as rejection too. That's not rejection at all. They just haven't gotten to your resume. I mean, I could apply to a job right now, and then again and again and again, and I probably wouldn't hear back from them. But it's all a matter of waiting and just keep trying. Um, all right. Lots of great comments. Thank you, everybody, for your great comments and gratitude. Serena wants to know, can you please share some networking tips for new immigrants? Do not actually share that slide on networking events. that you can attend, and different like apps that you can join. And then again, like we'll go back to the screen. You can go back to the screen and have a look at it as well. And there's no such networking events just for new immigrants or for anybody. You want to make sure that you're going everywhere. If you're all newcomers in the same place, you might not might not be able to successfully network, only because you're all in the same boat. But at the same time, um, that is a great place to network as well. I mean, it has its pros and cons. Those people, like for example, uh, you're in sales and someone's in IT, and you meet each other. This person in IT may have a connection with some sales jobs that they can connect you with, even though they're a new immigrant. So also keep that in mind, that don't stop yourself from networking with a certain crowd, but go where everyone else is going. You don't have to look for newcomer events only, but again, there's tons of job fairs. There's so many things that you can check out, and go over there as well.
Yeah, I don't mind repeating some of the
Yeah, go
ones
ahead.
that I mentioned. So when it comes to networking, there's 10,000 coffees, there's Meetup, there's Shaffer, there's Eventbrite, there's Hip Host, and for startup communities, it's Founder Beta and Toronto Startups.
Yeah, and again, you can have a look at the screen again when we share the webinar with you as well, the recording. Nazreen has a question that some recruitment agencies have emailed her asking for her resume along with her birthday and SIN number. Is that usual? Is it legal? It's not legal at all. It might be a scam. So you want to make sure that you do not reply to certain emails, because first of all, no one should be emailing you or calling you for your SIN number. That's something that you need to do in person, and that's usually done once you're hired. So once you're hired, they want your ID, your SIN to get you started and put you on their payroll. But this is not something that you would be asked before an interview.
Yeah, well, actually, it sounds familiar because for banks, for recruitment agencies,
Yes.
sometimes, so they won't. You're not obliged to provide your full birthday, and you're not obliged to give your full SIN number. I think what you're referring to is that I'll give an example. For recruitment agencies, they might ask for your last 4 digits of your SIN number. So and as well your month and day of birth, not the year. So the reason I'm saying this is because that's one method that recruitment agencies use to submit your profile to like banks or financial service or insurances organizations, because it's when they submit it, they'll be they need like a separate like identifier along um, before sending your resume, in order to ensure that there's no duplicates in your submission. So again, they're permitted to ask for your last 3 digits of your SIN number, but it's not the full SIN and not your full birthday. But yeah, that's a bit about the agency.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why we have a recruiter here to answer these questions. Guys, thank you everyone for your questions and great comments. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I'm just going to quickly answer some general questions. Everyone is talking about, how to bridge the gap between your experience, international experience and Canadian experience. Come to ACCESS Employment. We do have a lot of bridging programs that are sector specific, and if you fall into them, if you're qualified, you could take these bridging programs. They're about 4 to 6 weeks. And basically, they help bridge the gap between your international professional experience and Canadian experience. And we also help you with your job search journey. We help you with any support that you need with job search, and we help connect you to employers as well. So with any case, if you have questions about your resumes, if you are in the GTA, please come to any of our 5 locations. You can check them out on our website. And if you have any other questions, I'm just going to move forward to our next slide so you can see where to go. So you can go on accessemployment.ca and click on e-access. There's different tiles that you can access with different topics like interview related, resume related, Canadian job market related, what to do after you've been hired, how to keep your job. There's tons of resources, articles, other webinars, videos that you can check out as well. So I really don't want to leave you empty-handed because there was so much good information that we gave to you. I just want to make sure that you have everything else as well moving forward. And again, thank you for watching, everyone. There is a survey at the end. We would love to hear from you, and you can stay connected with us through Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We are very active on our social media, and we post all our upcoming events that are in-house and online as well, so check them out. And then again, Jeanette will be more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn as well, so you can connect with her as well. And again, thank you, everyone. This is our second webinar of August, and it's gone very well. We will be bringing more to you, and Jeanette will actually be coming back in the future as well to talk a little bit about IT, so you'll hear back from her as well. Jeanette, do you want to say anything before we sign off?
No, thanks so much for again having me here. Thanks again for ACCES Employment, and really looking forward to connect with you all.
Perfect. And thank you all for joining. Well, hopefully I'll see you guys this week. Until then, have a great day or evening ahead. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at onlineservices@accessemployment.ca. Take care and have a great day or evening ahead.